Well, I brought it up for two reasons. Number one, I want everybody out there to pray for this Tennessee football team. And number two, Tennessee fans, I am so curious. What do you expect out of this? What's going to make you happy? We need to address something and speak on something that nobody is talking about, and that's Tennessee football. Up until this point in the season, they're sitting at a very pretty and impressive 4-0. They've beat Ball State, a ranked Pittsburgh team, destroyed Akron, and also Florida. I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say it all throughout this football season. I like this Tennessee football team for one reason and one reason only. Hendon Hooker. Right now, as to where it stands, he's my Heisman frontrunner. He's been phenomenal this year, and I think he's going to continue to play good. But however, with all that nice stuff being said, we're not here to talk about what they've achieved up to this point. We're here to talk about what's ahead of them. By the way, we're not doing no intro, none of that. It's simple. If you like college football, we'd love to have you part of our community. We're building something awesome. Consider subscribing. We're getting straight into this mess. I don't know if I've ever, and let me repeat that, I don't know if I've ever seen a rougher 4-game stretch in the SEC that's going to be harder than this. Tennessee's next 4 SEC games features 25 ranked LSU, number 1 Alabama, number 2 Georgia, and Kentucky. Their next 4 SEC games is 4 top 25 teams, and 2 of those are the top 2 teams in the country. I find this so fascinating, and if you're a Tennessee fan, I want your opinion down below. Tennessee is currently sitting at the 8th best team in the country, and I think you can make a case and argument and say they are close to 6 or 7. Regardless, I'm not going to nitpick. I like number 8. I think it suits them best. I don't think they're near that elite conversation with Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State, and I also think they're slightly behind a Clemson who is really good. Putting them at number 8, that's a perfect spot, and I don't think any Tennessee fans are going to complain about that. I even dedicated a video to them, and I said they're scary good because they can beat any team on any given Saturday. The reason for that is because, like I said, Hendon Hooker, but also their offense, it's so explosive with Josh Heupel calling the shots. I think they can easily score 35 points on any team and any defense in the country. The only thing that may set them back this year is the defense. Although I do believe the defense has improved from last year, it's nothing too crazy. Anyways, taking a look at this 4-game SEC stretch, and you got UT Martin in the middle of it, let's talk about it. First things first, this Saturday at 11 a.m., you're going to have a tough one in Baton Rouge. If you're a Tennessee fan, do not chalk this up as an easy W. I don't want to hear any of this, oh, LSU's got a down year, they got a first-year head coach, none of that. LSU is going to be hard to beat. This is going to be one of those scrappy and ugly games. Pay attention to it. I'm not going to make my prediction just yet. We do that on Thursdays. But, and I have a but, the line for this game is only 3 points. I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing as me. Tennessee may be overlooking LSU because next week they got Alabama at home. I believe this LSU-Tennessee game is going to be one of the best games on Saturday. Right after that game, I don't have to hype this one up. We know Alabama's good. They're the number 1 team in the country. It's going to be hype. I might need to try to go to that game. That might be one of the craziest environments you'll ever see. Then after that, they got UT Martin. That's not an SEC game. But after that, not too big of a break, you got 13 ranked Kentucky. Fortunately, you do got them at home as well, but I still think it's going to be a tough one because Kentucky's defense is really good, and they got one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Will Levis. Yes, Will Levis has messed up at times, and in reality, he cost them the game at Ole Miss, but he's still going to be good. And last but not least, if that 3-game SEC stretch wasn't enough for you, they got Georgia. Georgia is similar to Alabama. Don't have to say too much. It's going to be a hard one. Whoa. Hold on. I know what you're sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, what's the point of this? Why are you bringing this up? I know what the schedule looks like. Well, I brought it up for 2 reasons. Number 1, I want everybody out there to pray for this Tennessee football team. And number 2, Tennessee fans, I am so curious. What do you expect out of this? What's going to make you happy? Don't be one of those delusional and unrealistic fans. Be honest. What's going to make you happy, and what do you expect out of this team? I would say at best to go 3-1. Because saying that Tennessee could go through this 4-game stretch 4-0, that's dang near impossible. To beat 4 ranked SEC teams, 2 of those being Alabama and Georgia, I think the right word for it is impossible. I don't know what other word you would use. And then on top of that, let's say somehow, some way you do upset Alabama and Georgia. Well, LSU is going to be a hard game, and so is Kentucky. I'm sorry, Tennessee fans. I got to be honest. I don't think there is any chance whatsoever you go through this 4-0. This 4-game stretch is brutal, and I think the best case in scenario, you go 3-1. Because once again, you got to be real with yourself. You're going to have the game of your life to upset Alabama or Georgia. What's the chances you have 2 game of your lives in one season? Probably slim to none. There's a 0.001% chance, and you also got to play good against LSU and Kentucky. I did happen to see a Tennessee fan respond to this on Twitter, and he said, 2-2 I'm happy, 3-1, I'm super excited. 4-0, I'm on the moon. And under that, somebody said, and this is a good comment, I want to talk about it. So 1-3 is a disappointment. Every one of those games are very much losable. I agree. This one is really hard to dissect. You never want to go 2-2 in a 4-game stretch unless it's this one. But still, I know how these Tennessee fans are. They're not going to be okay with going 2-2. And I also believe they will be strongly and highly disappointed if they go 1-3. I don't even want to talk about what would happen if they go 0-4. And it's actually a possibility. These aren't Joe Schmoes. This isn't Kent State, Tulane, Chattanooga, East Abuga, Water Aquarium Community College. These are top 25 schools in the SEC. There is a legit possibility you could lose all these games. With that being said, and I know Tennessee fans, you're not going to like this, you're not going to agree with this, going 1-3 in this 4-game stretch, it's not that bad. I get it. You're not going to be happy with it, and I myself, I probably wouldn't either if I was a Tennessee fan, but you just got to look at the cold hard facts. Winning 1 out of these 3 games, it's not terrible, and I'll explain why. Because most people don't even think you got a shot against Alabama and Georgia, so that's 0-2 right there. So narrowing it down even more, going 1-3 essentially means you go 1-1 against LSU and Kentucky. You split it. Here's where things really get interesting, though. What if Tennessee goes 3-1 and the one loss they have is to Georgia, so they beat Alabama, LSU, and Kentucky? Well, that means in the SEC East, Georgia would have the tiebreaker over Tennessee, so they would go to the championship and more than likely play Alabama. So that means Tennessee would be sitting at 11-1 with their only loss being to Georgia. I'm asking y'all a question. Does an 11-1 Tennessee team that loses to the number 1 team in the country deserve to be in the playoff? I think they do. But to go on top of that, this is where it gets even 20 more times interesting. What if Georgia loses to Alabama in the championship game? That would mean Georgia only has 1 loss, and it's to Alabama who won the championship. That would essentially mean Tennessee would have 1 loss, Georgia would have 1 loss, and Alabama would have 1 loss. You could see a case and scenario, and I think this could actually happen, where you have 3 SEC teams make the playoff. To even start that craziness, though, Tennessee would have to upset Alabama, and that's not looking like a great possibility. Think about it. That's something to keep your eyes on. If Tennessee can upset Alabama, and Alabama continues to run the table in the SEC West, and Georgia also runs their table, you could easily have 3 teams in the playoff. Last but not least, before we end off this video, I want to bring this up because I see everybody talking about it. Wisconsin's head coach, Paul Chryst, has officially been fired or let go, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of mixed feelings about this. Some people are saying it's about time, his offense isn't good, they're playing like it's the 1950s, and others feel like he got fired too early and there wasn't a real reason he should have been let go. I'll show you the numbers right here. You see it. Every single year, he won nearly about 9 or 10 games. I want to read you off this comment, though. Check out what this person had to say. If you actually watched Wisconsin's games for the past 2 years, you knew it was time. Finishing with 9 wins is the bare minimum expectation of Wisconsin now, and they've been showing cracks for years now. Horrible record under Chris when trailing after 3 quarters, and that got over 100 likes. Under that, somebody replied, I couldn't have said it any better myself, "You're Wisconsin, LMAO. You're not supposed to be competing for titles every year." That's my point, and where have we seen this situation happen before, also in the Big Ten? Nebraska. We saw the same thing with Bo Pelini. He was winning 9-10 games every year, and it wasn't good enough, so they fired him. And well, I don't have to speak on that too much. We saw what happened ever since he's left. I'd be lying if I said I don't understand why they fired Paul Chryst. I understand it. He's not competing and winning championships. And not just national championships, but I'm talking about Big Ten championships. I get it. You want your school to compete for championships, but sometimes you gotta come down to reality. Wisconsin isn't Alabama. They're not Ohio State. They're not Michigan. They're not Clemson, they're not USC, they're not Oklahoma, they're not Texas, they're not a big name and brand. You're just going to have to be satisfied with winning 8, 9, 10 games every year because that's the best of the best. You can't do any better. I don't care who Wisconsin hires, they're not going to lead them to a championship. That's all I got to say about that. I am very curious about all this. Let me know your thoughts down below, especially on that Tennessee situation. But with all being said, right about Billy!